So there I was, Zork Blastaar, 8-time champion of the Galactic Combat Federation, holder of 37 Medals of Valor, and, according to the latest issue of Conqueror's Monthly, possessor of the most impressive cranial ridges in 3-star systems. And what was I doing? Hovering above a pathetic little blue-green planet called Earth, preparing to challenge its mightiest warriors to combat. What? A joke. Commander Blastaar, we have established orbit around the target planet, announced my first officer, Nexa. She had been with me through 6 campaigns across the Andromeda Belt, and I still couldn't tell if she was impressed by me or just tolerating my existence. Typical Zork Blastaarian attitude. All business, no admiration. Excellent, I replied, stretching my 14 fingers across the command console. Begin planetary assessment. I want to know what I'm dealing with here. Find me their champions, their heroes, their strongest fighters. Nexa nodded, her eye stalks wobbling with what I assumed was excitement. Yes, Commander. Initializing scan now. I leaned back in my hovering command chair, custom built to accommodate my impressive physique. Thank you very much. And gaze at the view screen. Earth. Such a ridiculous name for a planet. Might as well call it dirt. Oh wait, that's basically what they did. Huh. Primitive species have primitive naming conventions. Not like us sophisticated beings who name our planets with proper respect. My homeworld of Kragglesplorch. Now that was a name that commanded respect. Scan complete, Nexa announced. Most combat activity is centered around something called professional wrestling, mixed martial arts, and something called extreme couponing. That last one appears particularly vicious. I snorted, releasing a small puff of neon green gas from my nostrils. Is that all? Pathetic. These humans are even weaker than the High Council reported. I stood dramatically, my cape fluttering despite the lack of wind. I'd had small fans installed in my shoulder pads for just this effect. Worth every Flarnak I'd paid. Prepare the intimidation transmission, I commanded. I want every viewing device on that miserable rock to display my challenge. My communications officer, Gleb, a small blob-like creature with 17 eyes arranged in what appeared to be a smiley face, gurgled in acknowledgement. Transmission ready, Commander. We have hacked into there. Oh my. Their communication systems are ancient. They're still using something called social media and television. How quaint. Whatever. I sighed dramatically. Just make it work. The Galactic Combat Federation expects me to conquer this planet by the end of their rotation, and I'd like to be home in time for the season finale of So You Think You Can Disintegrate. Gleb's Central, I winked. Broadcasting now, Commander. I straightened my posture, activated my intimidation pheromones, and stared directly into the transmitter. People of Earth, I am Zork Blastaar, the undefeated champion of the 7 galaxies. I have come to challenge your mightiest warriors in combat. Send forth your champions or face planetary annihilation. You have 24 of your pathetic Earth hours to comply. I finished with my signature move, a flexing of my tertiary limbs while shooting small bolts of lightning from my eyebrows. The transmission ended, and I collapsed back into my chair. That ought to terrify them, I said smugly, accepting a refreshing cup of liquid nitrogen from my service droid. Start the countdown clock, Nexa, and prepare my combat exoskeleton. The gold one, not the platinum. I don't want to seem like I'm trying too hard. Yes, Commander, Nexa replied, though I noticed her upper eye stalk did that little twitch it always does when she's trying not to laugh. Whatever. Some people just don't appreciate greatness when it's standing right in front of them wearing custom-made battle armor. With flame decals, 0.6 Earth hours later, I was starting to get annoyed. Our monitoring of the planet's communication showed that while my message had indeed been received, the primary reaction wasn't fear or panic or even the immediate surrender I'd expected. No, it was laughter and something called memes. When the name of the Grand Galactic Overlord is a meme, I demanded, spittle flying from my four-hinged jaw. Nexa cleared her throat. It appears to be a form of humor, Commander. The humans have taken your image and added, captions to it. Show me, I growled, the view screen filled with images of me, but with ridiculous text overlaid. When you try to threaten Earth, but your eyebrows look like caterpillars having a seizure. Another one showed my face with the caption, when you flex your tertiary limbs, but they look like undercooked space noodles. What? I roared, accidentally activating my defense spines, which puncture my favorite command chair. Great. That's coming out of my conquest budget. These insects dare to mock me. Me, the destroyer of the Kravlax Armada. The scourge of the Beetlejuice system. Gleb gurgled nervously. There's more, Commander. They have set your speech to something called a dubstep remix, and it's gone viral. Is that some sort of disease? I asked hopefully. Perhaps my intimidation tactics had worked after all, just in an unexpected way. No, sir. It means it's very popular. Millions of humans are watching it and enjoying it. I felt my rage glands swelling to twice their normal size. Enough. If they won't take me seriously, I will show them exactly who they are dealing with. Prepare for descent. I will face these humans myself. But Commander, Nexa interjected. Protocol dictates that we should wait for their champions to protocol be damned. I bellowed, my voice causing several minor consoles to crack. I did not travel 67 light years to be turned into ready my personal shuttle. Earth's atmosphere was thicker than I'd expected, and much more polluted. How did these creatures even breathe this soup? As my shuttle broke through the cloud layer, I spotted a large gathering of humans in what appeared to be a central location in one of their larger settlements. Perfect. An audience for their humiliation. Targeting what they call Times Square in New York City, announced my shuttle's AI in its soothing, slightly judgmental voice. Curious choice, Commander. Their military bases would be more strategic. I'm not here for strategy, I snapped. I'm here to make a point, and to look good doing it. The shuttle touched down with a dramatic hiss in the center of the crowded area. I could see humans scattering, pointing, some even holding up small devices, probably to record my magnificence. At least someone appreciated the gravity of the situation. The shuttle door opened with my specially programmed dramatic timing, 3 seconds longer than standard, allowing for maximum suspense. Smoke billowed around the entrance, another custom feature, and I emerged, resplendent in my gold combat exoskeleton, my cape billowing majestically thanks to the shoulder fans working overtime. Humans. I boomed, my voice amplifier turned to maximum. I am Zork Blastaar, and I have come to dude. Are those shoulder fans? Interrupted a voice from the crowd. A young human with colorful hair was pointing at me, not in fear, but in what appeared to be amused disbelief that I faltered. What? No. They are atmospheric disturbance generators for intimidation purposes. They are totally fans. Oh my God, that's adorable. The human was now recording me with their device. This is going straight to TikTok. Silence. I roared, firing a warning blast from my wrist cannon that disintegrated a nearby hot dog stand. That got their attention. I demand to face your greatest warriors in combat. Bring them forth now or face the consequences. The crowd had backed away after my display of power, but they weren't running in terror as expected. Instead, they formed a circle around me, many still recording. A path cleared, and through it walked... Well, I wasn't sure what I was looking at. The human was smaller than the others, female I thought, with gray hair tied back in a tight bun. She wore what appeared to be loose-fitting white clothing and looked to be in the latter stages of their pathetically short lifespan. Is this some kind of joke? I asked, genuinely confused. Is this your champion? This elderly female. The woman stopped a few meters from me and bowed slightly. My name is Margaret Chen, 68-year-old Tai Chi instructor and former Olympic judoka. And you, sir, are disturbing my city's peace. The absurdity of it all nearly made me choke on my own rage pheromones. You dare challenge me? I have destroyed entire battle fleets. I have wrestled star beasts on the moons of Jupiter. You talk too much, Margaret interrupted, assuming a stance that looked completely non-threatening. On Earth, we have a saying, less talk, more action. Fine, I snarled, activating my exoskeleton's combat mode. Servos whirred, weapons systems came online, and my shoulder pads extended to their full, intimidating width. Prepare to be the first human to fall to Zork Blastaar. I lunged forward, expecting to squash this insignificant human with one swipe of my enhanced limb. Instead, I found myself flying. The world spun around me, and suddenly I was staring up at the sky, my back against the hard ground, my exoskeleton warning lights flashing. What just happened? I gasped, struggling to reconcile reality with my expectations. Margaret stood over me, still in that same relaxed stance. Your center of gravity is too high, and your fancy suit makes you top-heavy. Basic physics. Physics? I roared, scrambling to my feet. I will show you physics. I activated my pulse cannons, but before I could fire, Margaret had somehow slipped inside my guard. Her hands moved in a blur, pressing points on my exoskeleton that impossibly caused systems to shut down. Interesting design, she commented casually, but too many exposed circuits. Also, your shoulder fans make a distinctive sound before you move. Telegraphs your attacks. The crowd around us was cheering now. Cheering for this human. Some were chanting, "Maggie, Maggie." My fury knew no bounds. I discarded the now useless exoskeleton with a roar and extended my natural combat appendages. No more technology. Now you face the true might of Zork Blastaar. Margaret raised an eyebrow, looking supremely unimpressed. Your natural form is actually better suited for combat, but your anger makes you predictable. Rawr! I charged, all 14 fingers extended into their battle-to-lone configuration. What followed was embarrassing. I don't wish to recount it in detail. Let's just say that despite my superior strength, reach, and extraterrestrial biology, this human female somehow anticipated my every move. When I lunged, she wasn't there. When I struck, she redirected my force. When I tried to grapple, I found myself flying through the air again. After the 5th time being flipped onto my back, I lay there, wheezing through my secondary respiratory system. My pride hurt far more than my body. How? I managed to gasp. How is this possible? I am a champion of 7 galaxies. Margaret knelt beside me, her face showing not triumph, but something worse, pity. Perhaps in space, brute force and fancy technology win battles. Here on Earth, we have had thousands of years to develop martial arts that use an opponent's strength against them. Also, she added with a small smile, I watched your viral video. Your movements have patterns, predictable ones. I closed all 4 of my eyes in shame. So, the Galactic Combat Federation was wrong. Humans aren't weak at all. We have our strengths, Margaret agreed, and our weaknesses, but we are survivors. Now, are we done here? Because I have a senior citizens Tai Chi class at 4, and I hate to be late. The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. Someone shouted, "That's my grandma." Another yelled, "Post that to YouTube." I struggled to my feet, my magnificent cape now torn and dirty, my shoulder fans sputtering pathetically. This isn't over. I tried to sound menacing, but even I could hear the defeat in my voice. Margaret bowed slightly again. It is for today. Perhaps next time you visit, you might try diplomacy first? We have excellent coffee. As I limped back to my shuttle, the crowd parted, some looking amused, others curious, but none afraid. My communicator beeped. It was Nexa from the ship. "Commander? We monitored the encounter. Should we prepare the invasion fleet?" I looked back at the humans, their primitive yet resilient civilization, at Margaret Chen, who had somehow defeated the greatest warrior in the galaxy using nothing but skill and observation. "No," I said, my voice hollow. "Tell the Galactic Combat Federation there's been a complication. We need to reassess." As my shuttle lifted off, I could still hear the humans cheering and laughing below. And somewhere in the depths of my 3 hearts, a tiny, unwelcome feeling began to grow, something that felt suspiciously like respect. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot, but round 1, amazingly, humiliatingly, had gone to Earth. The return to my flagship, the inevitable victory, was the longest shuttle ride of my life. Every bump in Earth's atmosphere felt like another jab at my wounded pride. The silence in the cabin was broken only by the pathetic whirring of my damaged shoulder fans, which now spun at different speeds, making me look like I had some sort of nervous system disorder. "Welcome back, Commander," Nexa said as I limped onto the bridge. The crew studiously avoided eye contact, suddenly finding their control panels absolutely fascinating. "We have, been monitoring the Earth transmissions about your encounter." "Delete them," I growled. "Every single one." "That might be difficult, sir," Gleb gurgled from his communication station. "The footage has spread to something called streaming platforms. There's already a song remix, and something called our action video. Humans are watching other humans watch you get defeated." "Enough," I roared accidentally engaging my combat spines again and shredding my backup command chair. That's two coming out of my budget now. No one speaks of this. We need a new strategy. My science officer, Dr. Plex, a hyper-intelligent gas cloud contained in a robotic exosuit, floated forward. If I may, Commander, our initial assessment of human capabilities was clearly flawed. I propose a more thorough analysis. Fine, I muttered, collapsing onto a standard crew chair that groaned under my weight. Analyze away. Tell me how a species that still thinks fossil fuels are a good idea managed to humiliate the greatest warrior in 7 galaxies. Dr. Plex's containment suit displayed what I assumed was supposed to be a sympathetic expression. It looked more like a constipated grimace. Well, Commander, it appears humans have several unexpected advantages. Physically, they are unimpressive, weak exoskeletons, limited sensory capacity, embarrassingly few limbs, but they compensate with remarkable adaptability and pattern recognition. So the old female, Margaret Chen, corrected Nexa unhelpfully, was able to predict my moves because she watched a viral video. I could feel my humiliation glands swelling. I didn't even know I had humiliation glands until today. Essentially, yes, Dr. Plex confirmed. But there's more. Humans have developed thousands of combat styles specifically designed to use an opponent's strength against them. They have been fighting each other for their entire history, constantly refining techniques to overcome physically superior foes. I rubbed my aching cranial ridges. So what you were saying is, you picked the worst possible way to challenge humans, Nexa finished bluntly. Direct combat plays to their strengths. Also, you chose a human who has spent 6 decades mastering how to take down stronger opponents. The bridge fell silent again, everyone awaiting my rage-filled outburst. Instead, I did something that shocked even me. I laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that started in my primary stomach and worked its way up through all 3 of my voice boxes. Perfect. Just perfect. The Galactic Combat Federation sends me, Zork Blastaar, to prove our superiority, and I managed to find the one human specifically trained to defeat me. The laughter turned slightly maniacal, causing several junior officers to edge toward the emergency exits. Commander, Nexa ventured cautiously. Are you okay? I stopped laughing abruptly. No, Nexa, I am not okay. I am being mocked across an entire primitive planet. The Federation expects results within 12 Earth hours. And now I learn that direct combat isn't even an option. I stood up, pacing the bridge. I need a new approach. Something unexpected. Dr. Plex's containment suit made a sound like a contemplative hum. Humans do have weaknesses, Commander. They are highly social creatures with complex emotional attachments, and they're divided into thousands of competing factions. A slow smile spread across my four-hinged jaw. Go on. They also have a peculiar fascination with competition and spectacle, added Gleb. Their entertainment frequently revolves around watching others compete or face challenges. Competition, you say? I felt the beginnings of a plan forming. And their champion, this Margaret Chen. She has family? Friends? Weaknesses? Nexa called up data on the view screen. Margaret Chen, 68 Earth years old. Retired professional athlete, current instructor. Family includes 1 daughter, 1 son-in-law, 3 grandchildren. Respected in her community. Weakness: arthritis in her left knee, though she compensates well. Also, extremely competitive. Competitive, I repeated, my smile growing wider. Perfect. Nexa, prepare another transmission. And ready my second-best combat exoskeleton. The silver one with the flame decals. The silver one. Nexa asked, confused. But I thought, we are changing tactics, I announced. If humans want competition and spectacle, I will give them exactly that. 2 Earth hours later, I was once again descending through Earth's atmosphere, but this time with a very different approach. My shuttle didn't land in Times Square, but instead touched down on something called a football field in a large stadium that my research indicated could hold thousands of humans. The stadium was empty now, save for a small group of humans waiting in the center of the field. I recognized Margaret Chen immediately, standing with her arms crossed, flanked by several humans in formal attire who appear to be what Earth called government officials. I emerged from my shuttle with significantly less dramatic flair. No smoke, No extended door-opening sequence. I'd even dialed back the shoulder fans to their lowest setting. Zork Blastaar, Margaret acknowledged with a slight nod. I didn't expect to see you again so soon. Margaret Chen, I replied, trying for a respectful tone that didn't come naturally to my species. I have come to apologize for my previous approach. The human officials exchanged surprised glances. One of them, a tall male with unnecessarily perfect hair, stepped forward. I'm Mayor Thompson. We are here to ensure there are no further incidents. Your, challenge caused quite a stir. Yes. I waved a dismissive tentacle finger. A regrettable misunderstanding. In my culture, direct combat is the highest form of respect. This was completely untrue, but humans had no way of knowing that. And in ours, Margaret said dryly, unprovoked attacks are generally frowned upon. I forced what I hoped was an apologetic expression, though given my facial structure, it probably looked more like indigestion. Which is why I have come with a new proposal. A proper competition. Structured. Public. Voluntary. I looked directly at Margaret. A chance for both our worlds to showcase their best skills. Mayor Thompson looked intrigued despite himself. What kind of competition? A series of challenges, I explained. Physical, mental, skills-based. Held here, in this stadium, broadcast to both our worlds. No weapons, no invasion threats, just sport. I turned to Margaret. And I request that you, Margaret Chen, champion of Earth, select the human team. Margaret's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Why the change of heart? I had practiced this part extensively with Nexa. My defeat yesterday was enlightening. I reported to my superiors that humans are not to be underestimated. They believe me, but wish to see more. To understand Earth's capabilities through friendly competition rather than conflict. It wasn't entirely a lie. The Galactic Combat Federation had been intrigued by my failure. Once they'd stopped laughing at me, that is. They'd authorized this new approach, though primarily as a way to salvage my reputation and gather intelligence on human weaknesses. Mayor Thompson huddled with his advisors, whispering urgently. Finally, he turned back to me. We will need to consult with international authorities, but speaking for this city, it's an interesting proposal. Certainly better than threats of annihilation. Margaret hadn't taken her eyes off me. And if we refuse, I spread my arms in what humans apparently interpreted as a peaceful gesture. Then I depart. No threats, no consequences. But, I added, allowing a hint of challenge into my voice, it would be a missed opportunity to prove that your victory wasn't merely luck. I saw her eyes flash at that. Dr. Plex was right. Humans were competitive. I didn't win by luck, she said firmly. Then prove it, I replied, in front of your world and mine. 3 Earth days later, the stadium was packed with humans. Their primitive broadcasting technology was set up to transmit the event globally, while our ship systems would relay it back to the Galactic Combat Federation. I had selected 3 of my crew as my team, Nexa, Dr. Plex, and my security chief, Crag, a mountain of muscle from a high-gravity world who made even me look small. Margaret had assembled an equally diverse team. Herself a young male human who apparently excelled at something called extreme sports, a female human who was a champion of chess and astrophysics, and a middle-aged male who was introduced as a survival expert. The competition was set. 5 challenges designed to test different capabilities. The winning team would receive, well, bragging rights essentially. But for me, it was about much more. It was about gathering intel, saving face, and, though I'd never admit this to anyone, proving myself worthy of respect from the humans who had so easily dismissed me. Welcome, boomed the stadium announcer, to the first ever Interplanetary Challenge. The crowd roared with excitement. I stood with my team on a platform at one end of the field, trying to look confident despite the lingering ache in my secondary spine from Margaret's judo throws. First challenge, the announcer continued, the obstacle course of doom. The center of the field had been transformed into a complex obstacle course that, I had to admit, looked impressively challenging. Walls to climb, tunnels to crawl through, balance beams over pools of mud, and something particularly sadistic involving spinning platforms. Competitors, select your representatives. I stepped forward immediately. This was physical. This was my domain. I would redeem myself. Margaret smiled slightly and nodded to the young extreme sports human. Zach, you're up. The human, Zach, bounced on his toes, looking far too enthusiastic about the upcoming ordeal. He couldn't have been more than 20 Earth years old, with unusual hair coloring and an excessive number of decorative skin punctures. "Ready to eat alien dust, Commander?" he called out with a grin. "Prepare for humiliation, puny human," I replied, though with considerably less menace than my first Earth transmission. The crowd seemed to appreciate the banter, judging by their reaction, though we took our positions at the starting line. "Ready, set, go." The announcer's voice echoed through the stadium that I launched forward, my powerful legs carrying me ahead immediately. This would be easy. The first obstacle was a high wall with a rope. I grabbed it and began to climb, my 14 fingers providing excellent grip. Glancing over my shoulder, I expected to see the human struggling behind me. Instead, Zach wasn't using the rope at all. He was running up the wall, his feet somehow finding purchase on the vertical surface, moving with a fluid grace that seemed to defy gravity. "Parkour, dude," he called out cheerfully as he reached the top before me and flipped over the edge. "What in the name of the Grand Galactic Overlord is parkour?" I muttered, hauling myself over the top. What followed was, another humiliation, but of a different sort. For every obstacle I approached with brute strength and determination, Zach flowed around, over, or through it with effortless efficiency. Where I struggled with balance on the narrow beams, he practically danced across. When I crashed through the spinning platforms with raw power, he somehow used their momentum to propel himself forward by the time I dragged myself across the finish line, covered in mud and various earth substances I didn't want to identify. Zach had been waiting for nearly a full minute, not even breathing hard. "Good effort, Commander," he said, offering me a hand up that I reluctantly accepted. "You've got serious power, man. With some technique training, you'd be a beast at this." I wasn't sure if I was being complimented or patronized. Possibly both. The scoreboard flashed. Earth 1, Space 0. The crowd went wild. Margaret gave me a small nod that somehow conveyed both respect for my effort and satisfaction at my defeat. Nexa helped me back to our team area, tactfully not mentioning the mud covering my silver exoskeleton. "The obstacle course was unexpected," she murmured. "But the next challenge is knowledge-based. Dr. Plex will destroy them." And indeed, the second challenge, Cosmic Trivia, went decidedly in our favor. Dr. Plex's vast, gaseous brain contained knowledge of thousands of star systems. The human astrophysicist was impressive but ultimately outmatched when the questions extended beyond their solar system. The third challenge, Survival Skills, was a near thing. The human survival expert could start fire without technology and identify edible plants with remarkable accuracy, but Craig's experience surviving on 17 hostile planets gave him a slight edge. The fourth challenge, Strategic Combat Simulation, went to the humans, with their chess champion demonstrating tactical thinking that even Nexa found impressive. And then came the final challenge. For the tiebreaker, announced the host, we have the Dance-Off. My team froze in horror. Dance? Dance? This wasn't in the briefing. I looked at Margaret, who seemed equally surprised but recovered quickly, a slow smile spreading across her face. "I choose myself," she said, stepping forward, and I looked desperately at my team. Nexa shook her head vigorously. Zerblaxians had notoriously poor rhythm. Dr. Plex was literally a cloud in a suit. Crag species expressed joy through ceremonial headbutting, not dancing. With a sinking feeling in all three of my hearts, I stepped forward. I accept the challenge. The music began, a pulsing earth beat that seemed designed specifically to highlight my lack of coordination. Margaret began to move, her Tai Chi training evident in the fluid grace of her movements. Despite her age, she had rhythm, control, and worst of all, obvious enjoyment that I did not. My exoskeleton suddenly felt bulky and restrictive. My limbs moved jerkily, out of sync with both the music and each other. One of my shoulder fans kicked in a high gear from the exertion, causing me to spin unintentionally. The crowd was laughing, but somehow it didn't feel as malicious as before. Some were even cheering encouragingly. I caught sight of a group of small humans, children, attempting to copy my awkward movements with delight. And then, something unexpected happened. I stopped caring about looking foolish, about winning, about the Galactic Combat Federation's opinion. For perhaps the first time in my life, I, Zork Blastaar, just had fun. I leaned into the absurdity, exaggerating my movements, making my shoulder fans work alternately to create a ridiculous rippling effect. I incorporated some traditional Craggle Splorch ceremonial gestures that, out of context, looked utterly ridiculous. The crowd loved it. They weren't laughing at me anymore, but with me. There's a difference, it turns out. When the music ended, I struck a dramatic pose, all 4 of my eyes closed, 14 fingers splayed artistically. The stadium erupted in applause. The judges conferred briefly, then announced, for technical skill, Earth. For entertainment value and audience reaction, space. This round is a tie. Atia? The entire competition was a tie. I looked at Margaret, who seemed as surprised as I was. The mayor stepped forward, looking slightly confused by this unexpected outcome. So, what happens now? I considered for a moment, then made a decision that would likely get me demoted within the Galactic Combat Federation, but somehow that didn't seem important anymore. Now, I announced we celebrate. Both teams, both worlds, as equals. The stadium fell silent, then erupted in cheers. Margaret approached and extended her hand. I took it carefully in my much larger one. Not bad, Zork Blastaar, she said with a genuine smile. For the so-called greatest warrior in the galaxy. Not bad yourself, Margaret Chen, I replied, for a being with only 2 arms and embarrassingly few eye stalks. Later, as we prepared to depart Earth, I stood at the view screen on the bridge of the inevitable victory, gazing down at the blue-green planet that had so thoroughly upended my understanding of the universe. What will you tell the Federation? Nexa asked quietly, joining me. The truth, I replied, that humans are not to be underestimated, that what they lack in technological advancement, they make up for in adaptability, creativity, and spirit, and that any attempt to conquer them would be inadvisable. In your reputation? She pressed it. I shrugged, a human gesture I'd picked up. Perhaps being known as the alien who learned to dance is better than being known as the greatest warrior. Less pressure, certainly. As our ship pulled away from Earth orbit, I received one final transmission, a message from Margaret Chen. Next time, her voice came through clearly. Bring your A-game, Commander, and better dance moves. Earth will be ready. I couldn't help but laugh. Count on it, Margaret Chen. Count on it. The Galactic Combat Federation might be disappointed in the lack of conquest. My reputation as an undefeated warrior was certainly in tatters. But somehow, as we set course for home, I couldn't bring myself to care. I'd come to Earth expecting to find primitive beings worthy only of subjugation. Instead, I'd found worthy adversaries. Perhaps, though I'd never admit this officially, friends. And that, surprisingly, felt like the greatest victory of all.